Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars. So please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Michael Harris, whose focus is on helping aspiring authors write, publish, and market their nonfiction books. Michael combines his passion for storytelling with his expertise in the publishing industry to guide aspiring and experienced authors through their journey from concept to published work. He believes that nurturing authentic voices and stories is more crucial than ever. I'm excited to have Michael with me, and I'm certain that you will enjoy this interview today. Michael, again, thanks for coming on the Deal by Me podcast. And I would that you will just share a little bit about yourself and where the interview is being taking place.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I really appreciate being here today. And I want to congratulate you too on something like 200 podcast episodes. That's huge.
Great.
And that's really, my focus today is helping to get stories out. And whenever I see other people such as yourself bring all these stories to the world, it's really heartwarming. It's really touching because I believe that stories heal. And we've talked before a couple of years ago on another show about my book Falling Down, Getting Up, where I came from, a huge struggle in my life, which we can get into if you like a little bit more,
Hmm.
and realizing that the power of my story, not only recognizing it for myself to help that healing and to connect with God and faith and everything else, but that story I felt led to um, putting it out into the world to also help other people, that all of our struggles and adversities and challenges in our
Hmm.
life, you know, when turned around, can be an expression of the power of God and the power of
Hmm.
He.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Michael, before we began recording this, you stated something that I still want to kind of follow up on because I think it's important for you to kind of share that because I can tell that you were had a little trepidation, or maybe it was on your heart. Uh, I don't know exactly how to say it,
Sure.
but you were talking about somebody that you were helping that was in Ukraine. Do you want to just share a little bit about that to kind of get it out and deal with it a little bit? I give you the opportunity to do that if you wish.
Sure. I appreciate you asking. It's um, something really powerful that happened with me this morning. I've been commuting communicating with somebody that had submitted a book proposal, and we had exchanged a couple of emails. And it's really a book about the holidays and preparing for the holidays, and really magnificent artwork as part of what um, this individual, this woman is doing. And I knew that she was in Ukraine, but I didn't know where she was in Ukraine. And uh, we had exchanged a couple of emails, and I suggested that we find a way to get on a call, a Zoom
Mhm.
call, virtual call. And she emailed me back telling me that much of her time is spent in a bomb shelter because of the bombing that's going on, and that she's writing her story, to get through,
Mm,
the constant bombing and the constant
mm,
air raids. And you,
mm,
Dr. Smith, it really moved me, and I came to tears, and I've still got, a little bit of tears in my eyes about it right now. But just it puts, like my story of the struggles that I went through in a whole different
I
perspective.
know,
In
I
just
know,
the last hour, everything has changed,
I
right?
know, I know.
And it's just like, yes, I've struggled with this and that, and I've struggled with alcohol and health conditions and everything else, but I haven't had bombs falling on my own.
Mm.
And
That reminds me, Michael, of something that I heard my mother say to me. She told me once I was complaining about something. Can't remember what it was right now. But she said to me, she said, son, if you took all of your problems, everything that you're going through, and throw them out there in the street with everybody else's problem, if you're not careful, you go out there and pick up your own problems and bring them back. That
yeah,
said so much to me. We think we're going through a whole lot until we see what somebody else is going through. There's those things that I complain what because I had no shoes until I saw somebody who had no feet. So it's I hear you very well. I hear you very well. You are helpful to individuals as I was reading your profile who are aspiring authors, both I assume in non-fiction and fiction. I'm an author. Most of my books are nonfiction, but I am just curious as to your writing and what you do and how you arrive at your concept, your theme, or what have you.
sure.
And I noticed in something that I was reading about you that you said something about blackberries. So I am curious about this, the way you talked about it. So my question to you is, why do blackberries, what do blackberries have to do with being an entrepreneur?
Sure.
That was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. And I'll just briefly mention too, you asked something about the process of writing. And
Okay.
that's that story and that experience when I was a child came out in the process of writing. It's not something that I've thought a lot about
Hmm.
over the years, but as I sat down and used a system to bring out events that happened in my life over different time periods, that one came up, and it came up as a first as an entrepreneurial thing, but
Hmm.
even later on more as a relationship with both my parents, my father and my mother.
Okay.
And the shorter story, not the short, but the shorter story, Dr. Smith, is that my dad was an entrepreneur, and he always said, find something that somebody wants to buy that's good and sell it to them. Well, okay.
Hmm.
Well, we had some property growing up, and we had lots of blackberries, and I would go out and pick some blackberries, and mom would make some pie. Best blackberry pie ever, and all my friends, would come over. I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and they would come over and have Mrs. Harris's blackberry pie because it's better than anybody else in the neighborhood. Well, one day I started thinking, and this is back in the mid to late 60s, I started thinking, Mom, why don't we sell these pies to the neighbors? And
Hmm.
she says, okay, I'll make a deal. She says, we'll sell them for $1. I get 50 cents, you get 50 cents. You pick the berries and I'll bake them, right? And so, she started baking these pies. I started going door to door. And I jokingly say that the Girl Scouts stole my line because I used to go door to door and ask, the neighbors, not would you like to buy a blackberry pie, but how many pies would you like to buy?
Uh-huh.
Right? You need an extra one for the freezer, that kind of thing. So I started recognizing, and Mom made me put a portion of it in savings, and then a portion of it I could go buy some bubble gum or comic
Hmm.
books or
Okay.
something else. And I really realized that that was my first entrepreneurial journey. I wasn't a paper boy. I didn't like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning like some of my friends would do. I'd much rather go out in the field, pick some berries, and have Mom bake the pies.
I am, that's exciting because I gather from that is that just asking the question is not always sufficient if you want to succeed.
Right,
The best thing to do is to make it so that they cannot say no.
right,
Okay,
exactly.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Look, you're helping me, so this is good. This is good today. I'm so excited. After reading your profile, is that you do a lot of humor with it, and that's always good. I like people uh, who can keep a little humor about themselves. Don't make everything so serious. And you also it look like you do believe that everybody, it doesn't make any difference who it is, has a story. Okay, so why is everyone's story so important to you?
yeah. That's a great question. And what I've realized over the years, and with my stories and books and helping other people and helping clients or helping people more on a personal level, it's really our stories that we tell ourselves that either empower us or disempower us. And
Mm-hmm.
these stories that we tell ourselves, whether it could be an empowering story, more like the BlackBerry story, or
Mm-hmm.
it could be something where we struggled with alcohol or we've been in prison or we struggled in these different ways, but we found a way to get through it and to overcome that. So I believe that those stories that we tell ourselves that put us down, we can turn those stories around that can help other people, that can help, recognize the power that that story has to heal us and also to heal others. And I've come to recognize that, really the unseen forces in the world are more powerful than the seen forces. So like even like with God and the relationship with
Mm-hmm.
God, that unseen force of a relationship with God is going to be much more powerful than me writing down my goals about something. Goals are important, but I believe that those unseen forces are really what guide us. So
Okay.
if we take our stories and we put it out into the world, whether we're on a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it's a TEDx stage, whether it's media, whatever, is telling the story that we've struggled, that we've had these adversities, and that we found a way to overcome it will help inspire other people. And I'm sure, like with your 200 shows and the work that you've done on death row and all the other prison work that you've done, many of those stories are very powerful and inspiring. And that, you know, if I find myself in a similar situation and I hear somebody else's story that's overcome it, it gives me hope that I can get through it rather than feeling like I'm alone. I'm alone here.
Okay.
I'm
I
the only one that feels this. And then recognizing
hmm,
that other people do too, can help me move past my personal struggles.
well, I hear that, and I'm a little curious. I think you're saying it, but I want to just make sure that's what you're saying. In in your thought pattern, are you saying that everybody uh, is really an entrepreneur, and that is they have this business spirit about them, and maybe they just don't know how to put it to work? Am I saying that to make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I think regardless of whether we work for ourselves or we work for somebody else, we're an entrepreneur. I mean,
Okay.
even to get that job, we have to use some entrepreneurial pizzazz, so to speak, to sell ourselves to this potential employer that's going to hire us. And they're hiring us to fulfill a certain responsibility and certain duties to help that business grow. So I look at all of us being an entrepreneur in spirit.
Okay. Hmm. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, this is really good information, and I am hearing what you're saying so clearly. I There is something that I saw in your profile, and I'm not sure if I know exactly what it stands for. So I need to ask you what it stands for, because when I talk about it, uh, that listeners probably would want to know also. So you talk or say something about the law of, and it's Goya. Goya. What
Oh, yeah,
what what is that? What are you talking about?
sure. Well, there's the book out there called The Secret. And, The Secret is really about the law of attraction.
Okay.
And a lot of people have thrown rocks at that book for various reasons. And, say, well, you just can't sit around and expect, money to fall from the sky
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it might be. And I can go deeper into um, the idea of the law of attraction in the sense that, and I'll just briefly, if I need to get a tank full of gas, I'm going to be attracted to that gas station to go get gas. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like everything that we do is attracting that. If I think, oh, I want to have an orange, I have a picture of an orange in my head, and I go to my refrigerator or the store to get that orange. Well, I can't sit there and just magically think, oh, there's going to be gas going into my car or my garage, or there's going to be an orange that pops out in front of me, somehow magically.
Mm-hmm.
So the law of Goya is get off your ass.
Okay, all right. That's what I would look. I just
Yeah.
want to know.
So like I need to get up and
Okay.
go get that orange. I need to
All
get
right.
up and go get that tank of gas.
I love
So
it.
yeah, it's action. You got to take action.
I love it. So no complaints from this host. I, I love it. Okay, that helps me. You know, I get the words, and I at least know what we're talking about. And
Sure.
I love that one. So you've already talked about how the law of attraction get activated
Yeah,
by the law of what? How would you say? Goya?
Goya. Yeah,
Goya, by the
yeah,
law of Goya. And you
yeah.
all hear what he said. I love it. I love it. I, Michael, let me ask you this, because I'm a minister, pastor for 32 years before retiring, 6 months before I retired. I started this podcast because I wanted to continue my ministry by encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming some lives. I'm not sure. I do get calls. People tell me emails that they have enjoyed listening to the podcast. They've felt encouraged afterwards. And I'm constantly having guests who I think uh, are ones that can help
Mhm.
somebody along the way. You are an excellent guest, somebody who's helping authors and writers and helping people to 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 activate the law of Goya, and we'll talk about that a little later. But as I think through that, suppose there is somebody who it is thinking through what they really want to do. They love to be an author. They want to start a podcast. They want to do a whole lot of things. Their mind is on this, that, but they don't have that zest to just get it, do it. What would you say to them that would be encouraging, that would be inspiring, and maybe hopefully transforming, help them to really move to that level? Is there a word you would say to them?
Well, jokingly, I would say Goya.
uh, Maggie, you all right with me? But I didn't. I wasn't sure I was gonna take you there, but I'm glad I did.
And it's a great question. When
Uh-huh.
I wrote my book, Falling Down, Getting Up, I finished it in 2011.
Okay.
And for a good dozen years before that, I had the book in my head
Excuse me.
and thought, oh, it's so hard. I'm not a writer. What do I know about writing? I can't do any of this. What do I know? And I'm still not quite sure where the trigger came, but the trigger, I saw something somewhere way back when that said, just write your book in 90 days. And I made a commitment that I was going to write my book in 90 days. And I was the guy in the local coffee shop. I'd go down there every day for 2 hours a day. Sometimes maybe a few minutes longer, but not much. 2 hours a day. And I wrote my book in 79 days.
Hmm.
Now, was it perfectly edited? Did it have
Hmm.
all the commas in place?
Hmm.
No. That's what the editor was for. So I got an editor to edit it. But once I Goya'd, once I got off my ass, it was done in 79 days.
Mm.
And maybe
Okay.
I wasn't ready to do it yet. Maybe the unseen forces, of God and, you
Hmm.
know, wasn't ready for me to write the book.
Hmm.
I can go really down that rabbit hole a long ways, to know why at that moment it was written. But I do know that I got up, I made that commitment to do it, and I did it, even though I didn't know how to write.
Mm. Mm. So I take it from what you said as an encouragement, as words of inspiration
Yeah,
to Goya.
good going.
Okay, all right, we got it. Listeners, you all heard it now. You got it. Okay, listen, don't go to place. Hey, stay here for just a moment. I got a couple more questions I want to ask of Michael. But first of all, I want to ask Michael if listeners of this podcast would like to know more about you, uh, your book, how they can get it. Uh, could you just share all of this to podcast listeners at this time?
Sure. Let me mention two ways to get a hold of me. One is simply go to my website and it's michaelbharris.com. Michael B is in book, harris.com.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do today too, Dr. Smith, is I have a way that anybody can get a free copy of my book. And it's
Okay.
simply ebook ebook, no hyphen in between e and book, ebook.michaelbharris.com. Now,
Okay.
you won't find that link on my regular website or any place else. That's literally you go in and and you can get a free book from that site. So I'd like to offer all your listeners in the audience a copy of free.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Listeners, I hope you got that. Michael is being very generous to us today. Uh, please, please check him out, and I think you really will enjoy him. He's always been a great guest. Been on this podcast before, and I've always enjoyed talking with him. Got a couple more questions, Michael,
Sure.
for you. You said something about I read, and it's a question about learning to walk again.
Oh.
Is that literal, or is that metaphorical?
No, it's literally.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? What happened? Talk about it a little bit.
Well, briefly, I'll mention that at 12 years old, I had a water skiing accident. And
Okay.
as a result of the accident, they removed 60% of my liver, gallbladder, collapsed lung, coma. Um, I had a near-death experience, died and connected with spirit and came back. Um, I became really resentful towards God for a long time because I couldn't believe that all these things were going on that were so terrible and that I was brought back because I didn't want to be brought back. I wanted to stay
Okay.
where I was. I
Okay.
started drinking, got into some trouble around that. And then at 26 years old, I showed up at the hospital and the vascular department at OHSU, Oregon Health Sciences University, and they told me I had atherosclerosis. I'm
Oh.
26 years old, and they said I will likely lose my legs and die within, 6 or 12 months pretty quickly. So I
Mm.
had a couple of surgeries and then went back. That was in 86. And then in 87, they wanted to do it again. And I was on a cane. I was walking with the cane. I could walk maybe 10 feet. That was it. I either had to hold the wall or hold on to somebody's arm.
Mm. Mm.
And I could barely walk. And
Okay.
I showed up at a rehabilitation, not a drug treatment center, but a rehabilitation center, physical rehabilitation in Southern California, and they told me to get up and walk. They told me to get off your ass
Mm.
and and get up and start walking. Well, within 2 weeks, I went from walking about 10 feet to 2 miles.
Uh,
And so that was now 37 years ago.
Michael,
Yeah.
was thank you for sharing that. I wasn't certain what that was all about, but it's really a, a story of inspiration. It let folks know what you can go through, how you can come back, how you fight it. And I also wasn't sure if it was leading into this Goya again, So you
Yeah.
have you open it up for me. So I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And tell me this, what is the real secret of calming the mind? Because before I write, I haven't written a fiction book, but I have written two nonfiction books.
Hmm.
Well, three as a matter of fact. So I know about those, but talk a little bit about this real secret of calming the mind. In your opinion, does it helps you to move through the writing process, or what does it do to get you to the point?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Great question. And I don't know about you or if any of the listeners can relate to this, but I wake up in the morning and oftentimes my mind is running right away. It's starting to turn.
Yeah.
And I really developed this process where the first thing that I do, even before I'm out of bed, is I'm having a conversation with God. I'm praying.
Mhm.
for the guidance and direction I need for the day. And then when I get up and I sit for about 10 minutes in some more prayer and meditation, and I notice throughout my day, whether I'm writing, whether I'm on a podcast, whether I'm helping another author, when I do that, my mind tends to be calmer, be more relaxed, be more open to, the magic that's happening at any given moment at any given day. And, every once in a while, I will skip doing that.
Mhm.
And, I skipped doing it one day last week and I felt like I paid for it. I don't know any other way to say
Okay.
it. Like my whole day was like off and I didn't feel connected or any of that. But when I go through that process, I feel that connection, to those
Mhm.
unseen forces
Okay.
that are helping to guide me and that I'm listening more to those unseen forces about whatever it is I'm supposed to do at that moment, at any given moment on any given day.
Mm.
And it's a
Well,
fairly simple process.
okay.
Know? For
Well,
me, it is. And that's what works for me. I don't know if that will work
okay.
for somebody else, but that will work.
I
That
got.
works for me.
I hear you. I hear you very well. You talk about power and force.
Hmm.
Uh, is there a difference, or if so, what is the difference between the two?
And that's a great question. And there's a book, I don't know whether you've seen it or any of the listeners, called Power versus Force by Richard Hawkins.
Mm.
And it's was written a number of years ago. So, you know, force is, at least in everyday life, is if I try to force somebody to do something, it's not going to work very well.
Mhm.
I pound my hand on my desk and say, "You've got to," da, da, da," you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
they'll probably tell me where to go,
Mhm.
right? Where to
Mhm.
go fly,
Mhm.
And but if I use, that unseen power, so to speak, and go, hey, what if we do this or what if we do that? I believe that we get, much more productive and we serve much better in the world than when we try to force somebody to do something. Yes, if somebody's taken to prison, they're forced to go to prison. But even within a prison cell, and you've heard many more stories than I have,
Mhm. Mhm.
and people that I know that have been to prison talk about even having this overwhelming feeling of peace. And even though there may be bars around them,
Mhm.
they still feel centered and at peace because they've connected perhaps with God or the unseen
Mhm.
forces
Mhm.
to live away. But many of us that aren't in a prison situation are still in a prison of our own making,
Mhm.
right? And we're stuck there until I believe that we find that connection to, live a different way.
I understand. I got you. I hear you. Yeah, Michael, you were very amazing, uh, and I like the way you you're doing what you do because you make it fun. It's kind of like and you talk about interesting things that just get you your mind just running. How did it come up with this? How's all this? And I was thinking about that because I want to ask you this question because I saw it in your profile here. It said, how did real monkeys in India inadvertently teach you about the monkey mind? I'm
Yeah,
curious. Tell me about that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll keep that one on the shorter side as well.
Please, keep it on the
I
front.
Yeah,
Keep it
uh,
short.
yeah. In 2002, I had an opportunity to go to India, and I went to Agra, which is where the Taj Mahal is, and I was staying in the Taj Palace Hotel.
Uh-huh.
And at that hotel, it's a several-story hotel, 2 stories, and there's a lot of monkeys on the grounds, and there's um, I don't even know what the real term is. The monkey guys. They call them the monkey guys.
Okay.
They have these long bamboo sticks that are 12 feet long or something, and they're trying to chase the monkeys away. And the monkeys will crawl up on the outside of the hotel. Well, I have a little deck out there, and the monkeys would crawl up, and the sliding glass door, and the hotel would put a big bowl, a large bowl of fruit there on the table right inside the window,
Huh.
which in hindsight, I think, why do they put it right there?
Uh-huh.
Because what the monkeys want is that large bowl of fruit, right? So they'll climb up, and if they find the door open, they'll sneak into your room and grab all that fruit.
Hmm.
Now, I had my door closed, and the monkeys were outside jumping up against the windows. One of the people I was traveling with was in the room next door. He went into the shower, the door was open, and he came out, and the monkeys were in his room. And he started, they tried to attack him, and he went back into there because they wanted the fruit.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
how does that relate to the monkey mind?
Uh-huh.
Well, there's this expression, in some form or the other, oh, I got the monkey mind, I got monkeys in my head today. Well, what I realized is I kept feeding them fruit. And I actually thought by feeding them that fruit, they were going to be happy,
Mm.
but one day the fruit wasn't there and they were unhappy. My mind was churning, right? The monkey mind, the monkey mind, the monkey mind. But as I continued to not put fruit in my head, the monkeys started going away because there wasn't anything to feed them. If I tried to feed them and take it away, they would be upset. But if I just didn't feed them, they'd go to somebody else's mind or somebody else's hotel room and harass them.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, yeah, I get it now. Stop feeding the monkeys. Stop giving them bananas, right?
I love it. I love it. Michael, you okay? Uh, This has been an awesome interview, and I want to thank you so much for just sharing this with listeners of this podcast. It's just been awesome. I don't know what to say. Again, thank you, Michael, and there you have it, uh, Michael Harris sharing with us today. And give us this book title again, Michael. For listening,
falling, falling down, getting up.
falling down, getting up. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.